Hi, I'm Dr. James Aaron Brown. I just wanted to talk about today one of the issues that we're all talking about, which is rising oil prices in America. As many of you know, if you live in California, you saw oil prices or gas prices at the pump hit $6 or more. If you are in Oklahoma, you saw gas prices reach probably about $3.70, $3.80. And this is the highest that gas prices have been in America in about 13 years since the financial crisis of 2008. So one of the issues that we have to talk about when we're talking about rising oil prices is inflation. And inflation, technical definition that we always use is too many dollars chasing too few goods. Goods like oil. However, what we also have to focus in on is that there is not as much oil available, which brings us to another issue of economics. And this is an issue that whether you live in a capitalistic economy or a communist economy, the issue of scarcity is always present, and it is the issue of how do we get a limited amount of resources, because everything in the world is limited. There is not enough for everyone to have a piece of it, and how do we get those to people who can afford them, want them, need them? So for instance, before we dive into oil, think of the idea of fairness. We want to be as fair and equitable as possible in America. But if we use the idea of beachfront property and we develop the value as a society that everyone should own beachfront property, the reality is that beachfront property, at least in America and many other places, is that it is a scarce resource. There is not enough of it for the 330 million Americans to each have their own little piece of heaven with the beachfront property. Then we could take a look and say, well, what would it take for everybody to be able to visit the beach every year? And maybe we develop all these timeshares, things like that. But the reality is that time itself becomes a scarcity. Travel becomes a scarcity. So these are all challenges that economically impact us in the framework of our capitalistic or even communistic economic situation. So scarcity, how do we get a limited amount of resources to people who can afford them, want them, need them? And oil is one of those scarce resources. Now, domestic production, this is very important, domestic production in the U.S. is down 14% overall since before the COVID pandemic. So it's down 14%. Oil prices are up approximately 65% since before the COVID pandemic. And oil is trading at $127 a barrel today. So this creates a level of challenge in that domestically, our oil production is down, and I believe it is down from 13.1 million barrels per day here in America in February of 2020, right before the pandemic. And as of February 2022, it dropped from 13.1 to 11.6 million per day. I really encourage you to go check out a cool website called macrotrends.net, and you can track the price of oil in America, and you can look at historical charts of what is produced or has been produced in America. So that is down. That is adding to the problem of a scarce resource becoming scarcer here in America, which helps drive up cost. But many of you are aware that there is a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Russia has invaded Ukraine, and this is creating challenges because in our diplomacy as Americans and even the European Union as dominant powers on the world stage, we are engaging in diplomacy or tactics of diplomacy, and one of those tactics are embargoes, that we are not going to buy from Russia specific items, and one of those specific items is oil. This creates another challenge. Like we are punishing Russia, but in some ways we are punishing ourselves, and in a just way we are punishing ourselves, or we are disadvantaging ourselves, in the sense that Russia produces something called sour crude. And that is what many of our refineries here in America are designed and capable of processing. A lot of also what is processed in the world is something called sweet crude, but our refineries are not set up to process sweet crude. So, without Russia's sour crude, this creates another layer of problems for the accessibility and the cost of oil prices here in America. Some people might say, well, if we're tamping down on our domestic oil production due to this current administration's imperative to be a renewable energy country, and we're tamping down and we are becoming more dependent on foreign oil, then surely it's cheaper to import oil from other countries. No, it's not, because oil prices globally are pegged to the US dollar. They are calculated in US dollars. And so, again, if you go to macro trends, you will see that oil prices per barrel today, Wednesday, March 9th, is $127 per barrel. It is pegged to the US dollar. It is not cheaper to import. And this creates another layer of challenges for us. So who does this affect? I think it's really important to be obvious with this question, because you're sitting at home thinking, it affects me, and you're absolutely right. Inflation, decreased domestic production, embargoes on Russia, all of these things affect oil prices, and it affects everyone in America. Bloomberg ran a very silly article, probably an opinion piece. It's probably too generous of me to say that it was an article, saying that inflation truly hurts the wealthy and not the middle class and not the lower economic classes of America. And that is just a silly statement, right? Because it's middle class Americans who have less margin than the wealthy. It's lower class Americans who definitely have less margin than anyone else in America. So if you are lower middle class and lower class, you see the effects of a dollar increase on the cost of fuel affecting your margins and affecting your grocery bill. And groceries are already up, I think, 7% from last year. The cost of inflation is affecting these classes much more so due to their limited resources compared to other classes. What can we expect with oil prices? We can expect them to continue to go up and to remain high. Our current administration in America, again, has an imperative for renewable energy. And this is going to affect our economic philosophy towards where we need to go with renewable energy. And we're going to continue to look to other foreign sources of oil like Venezuela, which is currently happening between our current administration and the Venezuelan government. So those are the things that we have to look forward to. I hope this video has been informative, and always feel free to reach out. Please comment in the comments section below and share your thoughts. I've covered a few things that affect oil. I have not covered everything that affects oil, so would love to hear your feedback on many of these things.